From the IMTV Wave Channel 5 studio at Greenville Senior High School, home of the Greenville Green Wave, the Greenville Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library proudly presents Never Stop Serving.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Never Stop Serving. I'm Samuel Plock and I'm your host today for Never Stop Serving. This series is sponsored by Greenville High School's interactive media class led by Lori Hoover and the Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library. Today, we have a very special guest, the Director of Culture at Save a Warrior in Hillsboro, Ohio, and he's also an Army veteran. Please welcome Joe Robb!
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm glad that you're here too. Joe, please tell us about your origin story, where you grew up, your parents, your high school, basically what led you to be in the Army.
Well, I was born in a military family. My dad was in the Navy when I was born. So
What year?
1984, July 23rd, 1984.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a hot minute ago. But my dad was stationed in Millington, Tennessee, Millington Naval Air Station. That's where I was born. So I was born in a Navy hospital on base. I was homeschooled growing up, so it was convenient being in the military lifestyle, going from base to base whenever my dad would get transferred. So I didn't have to jump from school to school. I just was educated at home. My dad got out of the Navy when he was at Navy Band New Orleans, and we ended up living in Alaska for a while. I have one sister. She's a year older than me. Sadly, she has brain cancer, still has it to this day. So there were some struggles in my childhood growing up, and uncertainty about her well-being. She wasn't even supposed to live past the age of 5, so she's still alive today. So we're pretty grateful for that. But being in the military is kind of in my family's bloodline. We have a military history that goes all the way back to the War of 1812. So I knew at some point I was going to end up joining the military. But we ended up back in Michigan, where my dad's originally from. When my dad got out of the Navy, he got out in 1990. And from there, I was homeschooled all the way up through age 16. Then I did dual enrollment with community college. So started to get my college credits, because also at the time, the Army would not accept me without a high school diploma, but I could sub in 19 college credits, and that would suffice in lieu of a high school diploma. So that's what I ended up doing. So I don't have an official high school diploma, but I do have, today I now have a bachelor's in business and a master's in business. So that education was able to get me into the Army. And I chose the Army because it sounded a little interesting. I didn't want to do the Navy. You know, my dad was Navy. He was also Army during Vietnam. And I always wanted to do something, go serve my country. And I just chose the Army. And I could have had any job I wanted. I tested high in my ASVAB, but I wanted to be in the infantry. So that's what I did.
Wow. Well, I guess you chose the right decision in being in the Army. It's amazing that you have a bloodline going back to the War of 1812. Not very many people can say that. Would you please tell us what branch of the service that you served for and how long did you serve?
Well, I joined the Army in September of 2002, and I got out. I was actually medically discharged out of the Army in December of 2005. So, and I had one combat deployment to Iraq.
Wow, during the Iraq War.
At the very beginning.
Wow.
Yep.
And what was your job in the military?
I was an 11 Bravo infantryman, so ground soldier. The specific piece of the infantry I was in was called mechanized infantry. So we had Bradley infantry fighting vehicles. So inside the vehicle there would be 6 to 8 dismounted infantrymen. So there would be a back ramp that would drop, and we'd run out and do what needed to be done. But inside also that vehicle is a turret with a main gun and a machine gun and a Bradley commander, a driver, and
how many battles did you go through?
Not so many specific battles. While I was in Iraq, it was more of a police action. That's how it felt. It wasn't classified as that. So there wasn't specific battles that I was in, but we did a lot of patrolling. And so we'd get engaged, with small arms fire on a somewhat regular basis, but it never evolved into a full battle. But I was in Iraq during the Battle of Fallujah. So we heard about what was going on up in Fallujah while I was in Baghdad.
Wow.
There was one incident, which is my Alive Day, January 18th of '04, a flatbed truck with a refrigerator on it and some workers. It was packed with plastic explosives, and it detonated just right at the entrance of my checkpoint. And on that day, 23 civilian casualties, half of which were children, all perished. And we had a lot of injuries on our side, no deaths on our side, no U.S. casualties, a lot of civilian deaths. And that was really hard to deal with.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Please tell us about your work at Save a Warrior.
Well, at Save a Warrior, I wear a lot of hats at Save a Warrior. My official title is the Director of Culture. So what that means is in our program, which is a 72-hour intervention for complex post-traumatic stress, after that 72-hour program, we have our community of practice. So it's we have this thing called the 500-day plan, which is what to do with what we just learned at Save a Warrior. So I'm responsible for our community after they go through our program. So all of our warriors who come through our program, I'm responsible for their care afterwards.
Oh, could you please tell us about your baseball?
Absolutely. So my baseball, we use a lot of sports metaphors in what we do. And so we call it the game. But we give all of our participants baseball. So for me, this baseball, anytime I'm speaking, especially, it's a way to help me stay present in this present moment, right here, right now.
Wow.
So a lot of times my thinking is bouncing around. It's hard to stay focused. And that was one of my struggles prior to going to Save a Warrior myself. I went through Save a Warrior as a participant because I was really struggling and I was suicidal, struggling with what had happened in the war and other issues from my life. So when I came through Save a Warrior, my thinking was bouncing all over the place and I could never be present. And I was always either focused on the past or focused on the future, but I couldn't be right here. So one of the things I learned was if I hold onto a baseball and I spin it around in my hands, my fingers touch the threads, it actually helps me get present.
Wow.
And I can also just kind of grind on it, something to keep my hands busy.
Yes.
And then
That's very clever.
the numbers that I have on it, these are all cohorts, which is our class numbers for the men and women that we serve. Now, I only do men's program. I'm also a program facilitator at Save a Warrior. These are all the cohorts that I've been involved with. So there's 50 cohorts and then 3 alumni intensives. So that's where alumni of our program, during the process of the continued healing journey, they find themselves getting stuck. And up against a roadblock of their healing. We'll welcome them back to Save a Warrior to go through an additional piece of programming to get them unstuck and continue their journey. So I've been part of 3 of those. So I've had a direct hand in serving over 500 veterans and first responders since I came through Save a Warrior.
Wow, that's amazing. Is Save a Warrior for every veteran or first responder?
I'd say not for every veteran or first responder. Being a veteran by itself is an automatic, like, yep, you're eligible for consideration, but we're not for everyone. For first responders, we're limited to the state of Ohio. We have an agreement with the state of Ohio and the OAPFF, Columbus Division of Fire, Columbus Division of Police, but we are a veteran service organization, so we primarily serve veterans. The reason why we're not for every veteran is because not everybody is struggling with the same things that the veterans who come through Save a Warrior are struggling with. We treat specifically complex PTS. So that's the cumulative effect of trauma over the entire lifetime, not just what happened during the war or during our time in the military. So it's called a precede, proceed model. So we go back as far back as the trauma began. And for many of us, it started in our younger years, in childhood.
Yeah.
Family, some dysfunctional families, maybe there was some addiction or some type of abuse going on in the home, a broken home perhaps. But those early events in childhood actually set us down a path of a way of being that we're using survival mechanisms from our childhood to handle our adult life, and we don't realize we're doing it. And so when adulthood trauma occurs, and in our case with being veterans, it's being processed through the same lens that our childhood traumas were processed through, or that family dysfunction was being handled with, and we really get stuck. And we don't realize that's what's going on behind the scenes. So again, it's not for everyone, but we do have a rostering process. So any veteran can apply, and it's regardless of discharge status. So even if somebody got an other than honorable or a dishonorable discharge, that doesn't matter so much to us. What we care about is that you raise your right hand and take an oath to defend the Constitution. That's what we care about. So we invite all veterans to apply. We serve veterans nationwide. In our rostering process, we'll do a discernment of, hey, is what we have to offer going to fit with what you're struggling with? But at our core, we are a suicide prevention program. That's why we were founded, is to directly address the 22 veterans a day that are killing themselves, which sadly is more closer to 43, 44 a day now.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you, that's really important work that you're doing. And most important for veterans out there who need help. Specifically, I've done this show long enough to realize what veterans go through in wars, so that what you're doing is really important work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If someone feels that they might benefit from Save a Warrior, what should they do?
Go to www.saveawarrior.org. Thoroughly read through our website, and then click the submit button on our application page and fill out the application. I'm also on the rostering team. So there's 3 of us on the rostering team, and I'm one of them. So after that application is submitted, then you'll have an opportunity to schedule a rostering call with either myself, Larry Turner, or Justin Carlisle. And it's 30 days or less is our window for scheduling. So it's a pretty quick turnaround from applying to getting a phone conversation to see if we're a good fit for each other and see if what we have to offer will help the veteran is struggling with.
That's wonderful. Do you have any special events or information to share with our viewers?
Nothing in terms of a special event. We're always out in the community. We're always going to veteran service organizations to share the message. So we're currently in Ohio. We're bouncing around to all the VFW, American Legion, Disabled American Veterans locations. We do have a first fishing tournament at Warrior Village on May 11th. And you should be able to find information about that on our website.
Perfect. And I would suggest you all veterans listening out there to check out his website. It may just save your life. Thank you again for your service to our great country and your time to speaking with us today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And you're welcome. Here at Never Stop Serving, we highlight veterans that continue to serve beyond their military service. Please continue to watch for upcoming episodes of Never Stop Serving. We have a very interesting season with many, many special guests. Also, continue to watch the Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library Facebook page for upcoming events and updates. Stay tuned for upcoming and exciting details for the return of the Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library Talent Show this fall, Season 10, folks. Back in the location where it all began at VFW Post 7262 here in Greenville, Ohio. You will not want to miss it. If you are a veteran and would like to share your story, please send us an email, gvmpdl@gmail.com. That's gvmpdl@gmail.com. Thank you for watching. This is Samuel Plock, signing off.
Thank you for watching. Please visit us on our social media sites. Please consider contributing to our mission in some way. Also, we are always looking for veterans and their families to share their stories with us. Next year, our Hee Haw Talent Show 10 will return to our home in Greenville, Ohio, where we will showcase our refurbished park and the hopeful return of the wall that heals. Be sure to join us next week for our next episode of Never Stop Serving. The Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library is grateful to our show's sponsors, VFW of Ohio Charities, VFW Post 7262 Greenville, Rodney Oda CPA, VFW Post 7741 Clayton, American Legion Post 707 Englewood, DAV Dark County Chapter 57, VFW Sunday Bingo, Dennis Maloney and Family, VFW Post 5018 Free Pike, Fitzwater Outdoor Maintenance, VFW Post 9582 Vandalia, Robinson Salt Supply, A Clarity Salt Company, VFW Post 657 Riverside. The Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library is thankful to all our sponsors and humbly asks you to become one too.